and welcome to the Victorious Living Solutions podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Nikeya Young, CEO and founder of Victorious Living Solutions, a transformative coaching company and podcast where we empower high potential leaders and teams to crush their goals despite life's challenges so you can live victoriously. All right, so this is season 11, you guys. And this season, the theme for this season is remix your mind. Remix your mind. Now, to figure out what remix is, you need to visit our website and download our signature framework remix worksheet. Okay? But without further ado, we're wrapping up Mental Health Month and we're talking about today, take the limits off. Take the limits off. We've talked about limiting beliefs on this podcast before, but for today, we're going to talk about limiting beliefs at work, in the workplace. That's right. And there's a lot of limiting beliefs that we could talk about in the workplace, but I don't like super lengthy podcasts. If I can avoid them, I try to. It makes it easier for people because I know you're listening on your commute to work and all that. And the closer you get to an hour, the harder it gets for people to sit and listen through an entire podcast. They have to stop, come back to it later. And sometimes they forget to come back to it later. So we try to keep them 30 minutes and under. So because of that, we're going to talk about three common limiting beliefs that are, if you haven't run into them yet, it's not an if, but a when. Okay? So the first one says, this is just the way things are. This is just the way things are. Okay? Now, could that be true? Yes. But does that mean that things have to stay the way they are? No. Right? And that's why that's a limiting belief, even if it's true at the time it's being said. If you are just, that's just the way things are, you're just chopping off the possibility of anything ever being any different. I'll give you a classic example of that. I can remember years ago when I joined Toastmasters and I was becoming club president, even though I had just got to the club. They had elections for club officers like not even a full 60 days after I arrived. And I was like, well, since I just got here, I will be happy with being secretary or something. And they were like, oh no, she's got leadership all over her. We want you to be our next club president. So I was voluntold to run for president and then nobody else ran. So then I was the president. That was pretty much how that went. And so me being me, I don't have, at the time, I don't have this long history with Toastmasters. I was very new. I wasn't only just joining that particular club, I was just joining the organization. So I had a completely different perspective for what's possible, what this could be, than people who had been in Toastmasters for years and years and years, who had been at that club for years and years and years, right? And so I'm using this as an example, a somewhat humorous example, but very accurate, because this is a lot of times what things are like when you come to a new job. You've never been here before. You don't know these people. You just come and you are excited about a new opportunity and you have all these ideas about what you can do and what you can bring to the table. And then you look at the vision of the company and you're like, oh, great. Okay, that's what their vision is. I could help them in this way, that way. You're just full of possibility, wide-eyed and full of hope, right? And here you come. Well, when you step on the scene, you're going to be greeted, and some of you are probably laughing and you already know where this is going. You're going to be greeted by, I don't know, just somebody, some random person. Let's just call them, I don't know what to call them. Jane. Okay. Thank you, executive producer Rodney. We'll call them Jane. We'll call them Jilted Jane. That's a good one. You'll be greeted by Jilted Jane. Now, Jane is very good at what Jane does, but Jane is also very jilted. Jane has been at this company long enough to see and hear a septic tank worth of BS. Okay. She done heard it all. She done seen it all. She don't have the stars in her eyes that you have when you're just like a happy new puppy, ready to get started and ready to change the world. Jilted Jane does not have that. Okay. Jilted Jane is a realist, and she's kind of annoyed. Maybe not kind of. She's very annoyed. Like, oh God, new person. She's not annoyed because you did something to her. She's annoyed because here you come and you're just like so happy and so eager to get started. And she remembers when she used to be like that, when she first came to this company. And then the cares and the toxicity and the just the whatever, the day to day of being at this company sucked all of that right out of her. She does not have stars in her eyes. It's just like, yeah, honey, this is the way things are. They're not going to change. Don't come in here thinking you're going to change some dynamic that's been in play for over a decade now. I just, stop being a happy puppy. Let me just tell you, this is what you need to get done. And boss likes it this way. And no one cares about your ideas. I'm just telling you, trust me on this. Just put your nose down and get the assignments done. Basically, don't go rocking the boat. Don't upset the apple cart, okay? We finally have gotten to a place where we can get things done, get our checks, and go home. If something is going to change, boss is going to have to be the one to change it, okay? No trying to be a hero. Don't make things harder for yourself than they need to be, or harder for any of the rest of us than they need to be. Just come in and let me show you how we do it. Okay? Get with the program and everything will be fine. That is Jilted Jane. So now, right away, that is usually the first limiting belief you're going to have to confront when you enter a new company. And I had to confront that too. There were a few Jilted Janes in my club. It's like, hey, we know you got all these ideas, and yeah, we tried that before. People who are jilted is always, we tried that. That doesn't work. Any positive new thing that you have to say is, girl, yeah, we tried that. Nobody's going to do that. I know what you're saying. Yeah, that's a good idea, but nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to do that. Okay. The second limiting belief piggybacks off of the first one. So the second one is, I like to call it mule syndrome. Mule, you are a stubborn mule. And this is for you CEOs, you supervisors, okay? Because the perky, happy person that's coming to your company and some of the newer people that are transferring in with all these fresh ideas, you are the reason that they eventually turn into jilted Janes. Okay? You're the reason that jilted Janes are born, because you are so set in your ways that you don't listen to any new ideas. You want everyone to fear you and bow down to you, and you just don't leave any room for any new possibilities. And just because you have a way of doing things that has worked for you for years and years doesn't mean that times now are the same as times were back then when you came up with that idea. There have been so many technological advances. There are so many different ways of doing things. And God has brought these people with all these different perspectives and different life experiences and different personality types to your company to make it better. And so you're going to have to be willing to not have mule syndrome. Okay? It just puts a lid on everything. And mule syndrome is the reason nobody even wants to share anything out, or no one has any questions to ask in staff meetings. They used to have questions to ask in staff meetings, but being a stubborn mule of a boss, right? Nobody could get their point across. Okay, you don't want to be that stubborn mule. Or if you're an employee and you have people telling you different things, like this is the company policy. Well, I know it's the company policy, but I want to do it this way. I think this way works so much better. I'm going to try it this way. Okay. So it's not even just bosses and CEOs. Sometimes employees can have mule syndrome. And baby, that's a good way to get piffed up out of there. Okay. Nobody has time for that. You can get pipped up out of that. Pip, pip, hooray. Nobody has time for that. You can't come in somebody else's company and tell them how to run it. You can share your perspective, but it's up to them ultimately to say yay or nay. And if they say nay, I always say, go ahead and share. What's the worst they can say is no. Okay, when they say no, you got to accept it, like it or not. Okay? But, stick with it as long as you can. And if things become so toxic where there's just no opportunity for growth, then, start planning your exit. But if you continue to force the issue, you may have an unplanned exit. Okay, so no mule syndrome. All right. Number 3, and this is a big one, and these all flow into each other. Okay, so the first one is this is just the way things are. It's just the way things are. Okay, so you don't have any hope of the company ever becoming better, ever growing, ever learning to do things a different way. I know, but these people here aren't going to do that. These people here, this is just the way things are. That's a really big culture problem. If you have that limiting belief so baked into your company culture that people not only take that limiting belief for themselves and how they approach their work at your company, when you bring fresh blood in to the company and they're trained by the people who are already there, Jilted Jane is pulling the fresh blood that you brought in because you want to, get some life into the company. They're being trained by Jilted Jane. And it's like, oh, okay, this is just the way things are. Okay, right? It takes a very determined mind, a very unlimited, out of the box type of thinking to overcome these limiting beliefs in a workplace. Okay? The last one, fear of rejection. Fear of rejection. And that is when you get the mule syndrome and fear of rejection. That's when you get, anybody have any questions? Nope. Okay, great. Great meeting. See you next week. Right? But what if somebody could foresee down the road a really big problem on the horizon if you continue to do things this way? And they want to tell you about it, but the last time they tried to share something like this with you, you bit their head off, right? Or whoever their supervisor, because sometimes the CEOs, they get it right, but the people under them don't get it right. They're threatened by the new person with all the ideas. They're jealous of them. And so they suppress that, right? Then they just don't say anything. They could foresee disaster ahead, but because the company culture was a very limiting space, and they were so afraid that if they spoke up, they would be rejected, they would be retaliated against, they would be fired, put on a pip, whatever. They just didn't say anything. Okay? And you don't want this in your workspace. You want an atmosphere where everyone is open to sharing. And I'm saying to you as an employee, don't fear rejection. Okay? You may be shaking in your boots, but say it anyway. Because guess what? At least you said it. Even if they reject the idea, even if they refuse to take your advice, you can bet when the company keeps on going down that road and they run into the exact obstacle that you told them they would run into, they're going to be like, oh, dang. And their mind is going to instantly go back. Didn't such and such say that at a meeting? She sure did. Man, we should have listened to her. And they may be hard headed. That may happen a couple more times. But after it happens a couple more times, if they're smart, their lightning quick mind is going to say, you know what, this person seems to always have some good insight. We need to start listening to them because the last 2, 3 times we didn't listen to them, it cost us money. Okay. Then it could lead to promotion. Wouldn't that be awkward? And then you get promoted and you're walking past with all your box full of stuff from your office, moving into that nice corner office, getting a promotion. And Jilted Jane is looking at you like, now, how did they pick her for that? Right? That happens too. Sometimes you have to be willing to feel the fear, but do it anyway. Step outside of the box. Okay. Don't let people superimpose their limiting beliefs onto you. And people don't always mean harm, right? Jilted Jane doesn't mean any harm. Jilted Jane has experiences that have left her jilted and jaded and cynical, right? But those were her experiences. You haven't experienced anything yet. You just got here. So go ahead and you'll hear some of that chatter when you step into a new opportunity. Just kind of smile and nod and say, well, I hope things will be differently. You know, keep an optimistic spirit. Okay. Now you'll experience your own things and you'll kind of learn the ropes like, oh, okay, I see what they mean, but I see what they meant by that, but I'm going to take a different approach. Just because other people have been shot down, have had bad experiences, doesn't mean you have to adopt their limiting beliefs. It's time to take the limits off. Okay. And that's all I have for you guys today. We do have several programs that we do with teams to help them with things such as overcoming limiting beliefs, overcoming imposter syndrome, getting your mind right so you can have a winning mindset to not only win professionally for yourself, but to help your companies and help your teams win and live victoriously also. So head on over to victoriousliving.solutions.com and check out our workshops, our products and services. We're happy to step in and help you out with that as well. Again, if you like this episode, as always, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And also, we want to hear in the comment section down below, what limiting beliefs did you come in contact with when you entered the workforce? Ooh, any juicy ones. I told you guys this could go on for a long time. So for sake of time, we only picked 3. But what are some other ones that you had to come in contact with? And how did you overcome those? Always interested to hear how other people overcame limiting beliefs too. All right. All right. That's all that I have for you all today. Again, I'm Dr. Nikeya Young. Keep living victoriously. Bye, everybody.